just in terms of how we frame women in 2025, I feel like I don't mind putting a thumb on the scale for smart and accomplished.
Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we get real about what it takes to succeed, whether it's in business, life, or both. I'm talking to game-changing and visionary women who've broken barriers, built empires, and redefined success on their own terms. They'll share their strategies, secrets, and the no BS advice you need to rise to the top. I'm your host, Jennifer Justice, also known as JJ. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. I'm Jennifer Justice. Today, we have the multi-hyphenate Rachel Sklar. I mean, I don't even know where to start. She's a former founder of The List. She's an award-winning journalist. She's an author. She's a founder of Inner Circle, and she just launched her new podcast, Hi, Smart Friends. So hi, Smart Friend Rachel. How are you?
Hi, Smart Friend JJ. It's so good to see you. It's so fun to say that naturally because it seems like such a natural, fun title for me, but it's been such a kick hearing people use it.
Yeah. Well, it's so smart, of course, because that's, you're witty and everything that you come up with is like super witty and, natural to say. So I'm excited about it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's been, let's suffice to say, it's not exactly groundbreaking to be starting a podcast, but I have looked around and seen so many people do a fantastic job of it, including yourself, obviously. And it just really did seem like an efficiency, honestly, because it's so hard to meet up with people. So if you can find a work reason for it, then you're automatically ahead of the game.
That's true. I love it. Yeah. So, maybe yours will have some drinks affiliated with it too,
I mean, I have a whole brand extension planned out, the first of which Ruby has taken upon herself. Ruby's my daughter. She wants to do Hi Smart Friend Junior, and she wants to, quote, interview people and be famous, unquote. I was like, oh, kid, you got to set the bar a little higher.
Oh my God. Let's get into it. So let's start with, The List. Like, tell us about what led you to that. I mean, I know there's another hyphenate. She's a former lawyer as well as a performer, songwriter, right? But why The List? What was the impetus for you to come up with that?
Honestly, the impetus for The List, but which began as an annoyed, exasperated email that I sent out in April of 2010, because I was annoyed at yet another article that was a big list of the who's who. In this case, it was the who's who of New York, the burgeoning New York tech scene. And it was overwhelmingly male. And I was just really irritated at living in a world in which I looked around and saw a lot of amazing women doing a lot of amazing things, taking care of a lot of amazing lady business. Yep. And then when these lists would come out, it would always be a laundry list of men, many of whom I would be like, I wasn't sure you did that, or I have never seen your name, or just the blatantness of the way women were passed over and just assumed to be there in a supportive position, but not in a celebratory position, had gotten to me. I was kind of done. And I sent an email out to 19 women I knew in the New York tech scene to say, should we try and get ahead of this next time so that we have more resources for journalists to draw on, so we can start making some of this media ourselves, so we can, look into what's being covered and understand what it is about the women doing the work alongside a lot of these men that isn't getting noticed. It's sort of you bite off as much as you can chew, and there was a lot to chew. And we got together at Tom and Jerry's at a round table at Tom and Jerry's on at some weekday afternoon. And then we added more people to the email list, and we had another meeting, and then Emily Gannett called me out of the blue, who it was one of a co-founder of Change the Ratio, which is what it was called then. And she, again, this happened organically. I started telling people that what I wanted to do was change the ratio that we saw in things, and it just stuck. And one day I typed it into the URL bar, and there it stood. So Emily called me, and she was like, we have the potential to have a luncheon during New York Internet Week for this if you want. And I think she said the sponsor will be Axe body spray. And I was like, okay. So we came up with a concept which was hot and bothered women in tech, whatever year I was about to say 19, no, it was 2010. And I was trying to look back with her about whether or not Axe body spray stayed the sponsor, but we did. One of the sponsors was the Trump Soho. We had our first event.
Oh my God.
The Trump Soho. 1-800-Flowers provided the flowers, and I whooshed together a panel, and it was standing room only. Like, there was so much interest in this. And meanwhile, the email list was growing and growing. And at one point we started, I think someone came to me and was like, someone's removing one name from the list. So we were like, okay, we'll do a Google group that we have control of. And another person made a Google group. And that was how it started. It was very organic for a few years until my longtime friend, co-conspirator in media, Glynis McNichol, we met in a media bistro writing class for journalists in the winter of 2002. Stayed in touch. When I went to the Huffington Post, she came on board to work with me at HuffPo, and we covered debates, we covered conventions. We were like, really just like on the media circuit fully. We were at Mediaite. We were the founding team at Mediaite. And then she went to Business Insider. And when she burned out at Business Insider and was like, I don't want to do anything for a long time, I was like, when you're ready, I have this business that I need a co-founder for, but it's not really a business because no one actually pays me money. All I do is spend all my time just sort of like sending rage tweets and polite emails to conference organizers, pointing out that they have no women on their conference lineups. And might they like this, to choose from this wonderful slate of 10,000 women that I had. This is well before Binders of Women. And Glynis eventually came around. We all of a sudden got some funding from the Knight Foundation, and rather clunkily, the list was born. And it was born because people just started calling it that. We just, people would, refer to the email list as the list. So eventually I went back to try the URL, realized that .st was a viable way to register a domain. And and that's how that happened. So
what were you doing at the time? Where were you working at the time when you started it?
So in 2010, I was still at Mediaite, and Glynis had just departed for Business Insider. In 2011, I spent the year working at Hashable, which was a very hot tech startup at the time. It was, I think about it all the time. It was very good for managing your contacts. Where did I meet this person? How do I know them? Who introduced me? Keeping track of your introductions. It was great. It just, like so many things at the time, it hit its critical moment, and it went in a different direction, and I went into another direction. And I think you've had Emily Hickey on the podcast. I'm not sure, but she's phenomenal. She's now the head of Chief Detective Agency. Most recently, I saw her on Gwyneth Paltrow's Instagram chit-chatting away, and she's amazing. She was at Hashable, so that's where I was. And when I sat and typed my little search into the search bar for the list, and then in 2012, we sort of started just doing it full time. It was just like, okay, I guess this is our thing. We had a number of sort of high profile successes. We just started realizing that we were really doing a good job of connecting women to opportunities, connecting women to press hits and sort of media opportunities, getting women on TV in national newspapers. We had a table at the Mirror Awards, which is the media reporters elevated awarding to media reporting, and that's happening tonight. Actually, I'm going tonight because I nominated Jessica Bennett, and she is one of the finalists. So still doing it. But we had a table because I had nominated Anna Holmes and Rebecca Traister, and they had both become finalists, and we had a full table. And so it really felt like, okay, we're actually having real world impact here. And by the way, both Rebecca Traister and Anna Holmes won, which meant they won money, but also got to go to the front and make a speech. And you just see like the difference in representation in real time makes a huge difference. And so twisted Glynis's arm, got her on board, and it was like, all right, I guess we're co-founders. And we turned it into a business along the way. Again, not without its bumps, but it was by the time we sold it in 2020, it was absolutely profitable. There were, wait lists out the wazoo, and we did not have very much attrition. So it was a good product, and for its time, and created a lot of great community and a lot of great results from it. So,
I mean, that's the point, right? Like we both like belong to other communities, and what you want are real, tangible success stories, right? And getting, business from people, transactional. So, it's great to hear. And then you started charging eventually, obviously, to make it something.
Well, I think it was like maybe the fall of 2010 where I realized that I had not actually made money in a good long while. Like I kind of was like, oh my God, I've been working a lot, but I need to actually make money. And this is a story of my life where I am so thoroughly divorced from the work I do and am inspired by versus what actually pays me. It can sometimes be a problem, but I know it's terrible. Listen, this is taking care of lady business. I get it. I do not taking care of that. But I'm getting better. JJ. But, it just, you have to charge for value. And that's why people would say, why don't you make this a nonprofit? Oh, you're ladies helping ladies. Aren't you special? Aren't you wonderful? Aren't you nice? Yeah. And it was like, no, we are creating real value for people. And the whole notion always has to be value for value, because we want to be able to say that we are creating value for women who are creating value out in the world. And that value has to be recognized. So that has always been the issue. When you want to silo what women do as a nice to have or that's something they ought to be anyway.
Yeah. Or charitable.
Yes. Pay us for the exceptional value we provide. You will get that value back tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. And we've seen it over and over again. And I know you do that because I've heard the reports. So,
well, yes, I mean, that's exactly what we try to do here. And there's so many people doing it now that it's like really comforting, like hitting it on all sides, and to know that people are out there, women supporting women, giving each other business, talking about each other in a room when they're not there, all of those things. And, 2010, I do think that a lot of things have changed, right? But not enough, right? Obviously.
Definitely not enough. And it is a crushing thing to me to think about the naivete with which I charged in 2010, thinking that if I knew I was changing minds and we were changing the ratio and changing the paradigm. And then to see that the people in true power at that time and who were building power at that time, often with our support and help by using their platforms and working with them and doing events with them, and turned around and created whatever the hellscape we are in digitally today. I mean, it's really, that part's upsetting. There's always a bit of a reckoning that has to be done with, how much you should have trusted blindly, right? But you can only do what you can do. And
what do you mean by that? Should have trusted blindly?
Well, I really just feel like, there was so much like yay Facebook. Yay, let's use Facebook groups. Let's post on Facebook, put all of our pictures on Facebook, yay Instagram. I didn't use Instagram immediately as a business thing. I used Instagram Grid as I now use Instagram Stories, which is like for one-off jokes or whatever. So there's no coherent professional portrait of me that can emerge from my very early Instagram days. And then when Ruby, my daughter, was born, I switched to a private Instagram for her. So I sort of didn't build on Instagram in the years of building. But a lot of people, right? Like we built, as I say, like we all built on these products. I certainly used Twitter. I mean, I was a very early adopter of Twitter and a huge booster of it. I used to walk around with my computer I remember walking around with my computer at the DNC and the RNC in 2008, like showing people how to get on Twitter. Look, you can get on Twitter. It was a different time, right? And then to see how these platforms didn't love us back.
Yeah. That is definitely one way to put it, right?
They didn't. In the same way, there's this sort of classic, like, work doesn't love you back. Like, these platforms did not love us back. And yes, there were transactional benefits to it. Obviously, we built our businesses using these platforms. It was very symbiotic. It was very beneficial always at the time, but we kind of didn't grasp the trade-offs. And just generally speaking, like my own lack of being transactional at the time. I mean, all I wanted to do was to be useful for women. So I couldn't have been more excited if anybody would be like, can you recommend someone for this conference? So I would go about doing free work so that I could get one woman on, some conference slate. I would send like 50 bios. I'd sit and, pound out bios for 3 hours just from memory and send them all in. I mean, like, there was a lot of free labor that was done. This wasn't just me though. Like, this was everyone. I saw, Soraya Chemaly. I just realized, am I saying her right? Chemaly, Chemaly. She was doing just tons of free work on Facebook's behalf by constantly pointing out the problematic content and working hard to get Facebook to change, to like moderate violence against women in content and violence against like women who are pregnant. And I mean, really early stuff. Like, I'm talking about like 2007 when it started launching. Like, she was really in the trenches. Just a lot of work and labor. And if anybody, I'm sure many people are familiar with Jessica Valenti, who now runs Abortion Every Day, the Substack publication. I mean, she has been working, screaming, raging, and spitting facts since I've known her in 2006 and longer. And the work she does has absolutely been completely useful to the larger whole, right? So, but you still realize just how much of it is thankless and how much raging the Cassandras have been doing, screaming hoarse for years, for decades. And so it's hard not to see where we are in 2025 and not to feel a little resentful and take a look back and think about how you could have done things differently so that you can do things differently.
Well, I mean, look, it's a lot of it's education first and foremost, right? It's like, and that's what you were doing, educating each other on what you did. You know what I mean? How to be supportive and showing them the way. Maybe you didn't make, the money you should have by doing all those bios, but that's part of it, right? And now, like, that story is out there. Me Too then came and people are like, this is happening to all of us, right? But then, the work continues to, okay, now you got to make money, because the only way to really have that kind of impact and power is to make money from what you're doing, right? Because as we can see what's going on now in the press with two man babies fighting because they have a lot of power and money to get that kind of attention, And
it is depressing. It is very depressing.
Yeah. But, at the same time, I think, learning from what you had with the tech, et cetera, the list was at the forefront and doing what you're doing and what you did there. Yeah. I guess some of the things, what would you say that, but you obviously got something right. What did you get right with it? What would you do again?
I mean, I'm literally doing it again. So I feel like with Inner Circle, which is the sort of new version of a women's professional networking group that I started in the past year and a half because people were coming to me, asking me specifically for the stuff that I used to do at the list that were very much centered in me and sort of how I would provide advice and counsel and amplification and make introductions. These are things that we were able to build into the list when Glynis and I ran it, and but as you rightfully point out, it's work, and you can't do it always, without limit, especially when it's no longer your company. And so, a number of things sort of coalesced to make me think, okay, maybe it's time to do this again. I had worked in other organizations. I was, for a blink and a half, I was the VP of programming and content at Saks Works. It was Saks. I was paid by Saks. So forever I will be able to say I was a VP at Saks. The company was Saks Works, the private membership club at Saks, for which I ran programming. But it was during the pandemic. Obviously, the vicissitudes of when we could gather and not gather had impact there. It ended up being reorged and acquired into another unit at Hudson's Bay Company, which owned Saks. And so that ended quickly for me. No harm, no foul. Loved Saks. Loved being able to bring in incredible speakers like you.
That's right.
To the program. Loved my Saks discount. Oh my goodness. That was really transformative for my wardrobe. And then I worked with the Riveter, building their online skills workshops and, bumping up their content. And I had been an advisor to the Riveter and sort of a longtime partner with them when we were at the list. So that was a very natural place for me. And then that also ended, and it was just really time. It was time for me to start something that I could once again build with my legendary business building skills, which is to say you can build a business and then figure out how to make money from it.
So tell us about Inner Circle. What is it? Inner
Circle is a private invitation only women's network, still very small, meant to sort of provide a supportive network for advice, referrals, recommendations, and sort of an ongoing amplification and ongoing investment in each other's success. And it's vetted because it's so small, because it's run by me. Anybody in there knows that I am the filter to make sure that people involved are serious, trustworthy, committed to the cause being a rising tide lifts all boats, and that there aren't going to be, I guess, it's not going to be people looking to either clout chase, sort of stir up drama, like any of the things that can happen in groups where there isn't an investment in keeping the larger group it's sort of intact and building it up and caring about it, which was something that was like really intrinsic to the list and a delight in building it for myself and Glynis. I should mention here my co-founder at the list, Glynis McNichol, is a celebrated author and will also be the first guest on my podcast. She is, she was extraordinary. I miss her. I miss her because it's very different running something as a sole founder than with a co-founder. But fortunately, she remains an everlasting advisor and is really only a text away when I just need someone else to weigh in. Because as a single mom,
yeah.
JJ, I know you know this,
yes.
that sometimes this decision fatigue of just having to make every decision, big and small, by yourself is a lot.
Yeah, and actually doing everything by yourself is a lot.
It is.
I had to forgive myself many times and not being as type A as I usually am. Yeah.
I just remember when Ruby was a baby, there was a day when I caught myself melting down over which socks should I, the thin socks or the thick socks, right? What was the weather? What, like gaming out all this, like it was socks. It was socks. It was making me crazy. But that was when I realized that it was decision fatigue that was really getting to me. So I actually do try and be aware of when all the tiny decisions are keeping me from moving forward. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that I do a good job of it, but I am saying that I recognize that as a pitfall of being a sole founder.
Yeah, it can be hard, but at least you get to make your own decisions too. So that's the good part of it, right?
I think the best situation is when you have people that you work with that you're aligned with, and you can have healthy disagreements but come together to.
Yeah.
And I did have a great. Glynis and I were great at like really like naughtily, not naughty as in we're so naughty, but naughty as in like a naughty knots in a tree or knots in a shoelace, like naughtily digging into our issues and really pulling at them so that by the time we came to a resolution, we were 100% united and had really, really kicked the tires. I do really like doing that. It's,
Yeah.
there's a danger in when you're doing that yourself to getting into like ruminating, but I mean, that's one of the reasons it took me such a long time to start the podcast, because I really overthought it. I mean, this concept has been with me for like almost a year and a half now, that I've been like, I should really start this. But I credit another women's group, Women Work. May I swear?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Women work fucking hard.
Oh,
Lindsay
yeah.
had put that call out on another women's networking group, Media Hacks, Leah Goldman's group, about the annual Women Work Fucking Hard event, and looking for sponsors, looking for books for the library. And I responded, I was like, these are all people I can introduce you to. And this may sound crazy, but maybe I have something. And I created from Inner Circle, I created something which, knowing what I wanted to build, which was not just one podcast, but a few podcasts, a few media properties, and a collective of putting them together. I created the Smart Friends Network, which ended up being the launch sponsor of the Women Work Fucking Hard library. And that was whooshed together in about 2 weeks. And then I was like, okay, well, we have a podcast coming and I guess it's launching. So that is how it happened. I just had an impetus, and now I have all of these entities orbiting around Inner Circle. But that makes sense, because what is an inner circle if not something around which things orbit?
No, it's so true. I mean, you're a master connector and master networker. And what do you wish that people would understand about that?
About which part? About
like a network and networking, because it has for some reason, so many people have such a negative connotation. I've never felt like it was, you know what I mean? Yeah. When you walk in a room and you don't know anybody, it can be uncomfortable. But then again, I've been doing this a long time. So me at 25 versus now, like, it's probably totally different. And, but understanding, like, you are so good at that and putting people in touch, like it comes so naturally to you.
It does come naturally to me. I am a born networker insofar as I love to throw my friends together. And again, it's often an efficiency. You throw your friends together, then you can just invite everyone to do the thing. You don't have to worry if they're going to have fun or not. So I'm single, never been married, but when I would do the like dreaming of my wedding thing when I was younger, I had there was no real thinking about the groom. I would focus on, I'd wanted to have a weekend wedding where everybody met awkwardly Friday night, got to be friends during the wedding, and then was BFF during the Sunday brunch. Like, this was my paradigm for what I wanted a wedding to be. I could care less about the dress, didn't know anything about rings, and the groom was an afterthought, but I was so excited about the party. So I think that might be the best example of sort of my thinking on this, which is I love
people.
That,
this is your thinking, and how old were you? And you still remember this?
Well, because I still enjoy it. It's still such a thrill for me to know that I've, gotten people together. And again, it is constantly an efficiency for me, because especially if this is my job, right? Now, if this is my job. So it is, I want people to come to a party. I want to smoosh everyone together and be like, you'll love this person. You'll love this person. Go talk. You know, this thing, you know, this thing, you have this in common. And then I can go do something else. This is, I mean,
feel like it's more than that with you though, because obviously that's how you start the list, right? It's also like you want them to succeed. You want them to be seen. You want their voices to be heard just as much as everybody else sitting alongside of them, right? So you're a champion of them as well, not just like, oh, great, we all get along and we can gossip about our nails. Like it's bigger, I think. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit, actually.
Well, I appreciate that framing. And yes, you are right. And I don't have much to say about nails because mine suck. And I usually do bring polish with me in like my purse or a pocket, and I throw it on in the cab on the way to the event. My daughter, however, has been like, she's super into nails. I don't know where she gets any of the beauty stuff because it's really not my forte. But I do, yeah, I do. I mean, I'm motivated by that same sense of injustice that I was motivated by in 2010 when another list came out and I saw it was like women were excluded. It's the same way I used to feel when I would see all of these eligible bachelor lists for Valentine's Day and be like, why aren't women eligible if they're single?
Yeah.
I felt this as a single woman. I was like, I'm pretty eligible. I look at men my age with exactly my plaudits. And if I was a man, I'd be like, wow, she's a lawyer, but she's also a writer, but she's also in tech or whatever the things I had going for me at the time, that if they were sort of like transmogrified onto a man, I'd be such a catch.
Yeah.
So it has always been what's animated me for sure in this space. Yeah. And it's just, again, I hate to keep on coming back to efficiency when I don't know many people who know me in my daily life who'd say, oh, Rachel's so efficient, but it certainly is efficient to blend your personal life and your professional life which is, I think, a really good segue into Hi Smart Friend.
Yes, let's go. When is this coming out? Tell us about it.
I'm recording with Glynis tomorrow.
Amazing.
We are going to the Mirrors tonight to celebrate Jess Bennett, and there will be some debriefing. I have some overall framing. I already know I produced a podcast for my good friend Shoshana Hecht called Your New Life Blend. I already know from doing that, you know, the shape takes form as you go. I'm open to that, but really just the opportunity to have an excuse to talk to people who I think are amazing and to also put the label of smart on them, put the label of smart on women, which is, it shouldn't be revolutionary.
Yeah.
But it is quietly a revolutionary thing to do pointedly and mindfully. And that is what it's about. I'm a person who loves to get into your DMs and say like, I love what you're wearing. Your outfit's great. Oh my God, I love your hair. All of those things. Instagram is a visual medium. I take it all in and I love it. But just in terms of how we frame women in 2025, I feel like I don't mind putting a thumb on the scale for smart and accomplished.
Mm-hmm. And so so tell us who you're going to be interviewing other than smart friends, but you know.
Oh my God. It's when I did my launch post, I started with tags of people I had spoken to and who said they would be on it. But then it felt so thirsty because there were so many of them. And now I'm so stressed that I'm going to forget people. Okay. Who did I reach out to? In no particular order. Glynis McNichol, author of I'm Mostly Here to Enjoy Myself and co-founder of The List. Rachel Axler, Emmy-winning writer of Veep. I can't remember if there's an Emmy for How I Met Your Mother, but she definitely worked on that. Parks and Rec. I love her so much. She is hilarious and amazing. Macy Schmidt. I believe she has 2 Tonys. She was on the Tonys 2 years ago when, in the opening, she is a absolute Broadway operator, arranger, creator, and she's the creator of the Broadway Sinfonetta, the all-female orchestra that has been going around the world and most recently accompanying, like being a live symphonic accompaniment to Barbie movies and like the Hollywood Bowl and stuff. Brooke Hammerling, who I've known for years in the tech industry since 2010, and is just not only an amazing PR person and comms, I guess, like savant, but her Pop Culture Monday newsletter is like a must read and I love it. And so really, I just need her to tell me what's happening on TikTok and what Gen Z is doing and saying. Christina Wallace, who is a Harvard, I have so many, like Christina Wallace, like there's a lot of people who are coming on this podcast and I could just, I should, and
how often are you releasing them? Weekly?
I was planning on weekly, yes. And then I got stressed out. I was like, well, maybe I should do more. Here I have my list in front of me. Should I read it? I reel off some names?
Yeah.
Alyssa Mastromonaco, Molly Jong Fast, Stacey London, Naima Raza, Lindsay Shookus, and Kristen Merrick from Women Who Work Fucking Hard, considering that they were the impetus for this. I'm so grateful that they'll be coming on. Susan Dominus, an author, a writer at the New York Times Magazine, a very good friend of mine, most recently the author of The Family Dynamic. She's coming on. Kate Baer, the fantastic poet, like Joe Piazza, and Christine Pride, they have written books together, but they will be coming on separately because they each have their own books now. Emma Rosenblum, I got an early copy of Mean Moms last week, and I'm pretty psyched about it. It's just, it's a long, great list, and I could just keep on reading names over and over again. But I have a lot of smart friends. And I want to talk to them. And
I want to support you too, because you've supported them so much,
The response has been very nice.
Yeah.
The response has been lovely. So it's funny because we are talking about lady business.
Yes, we are.
But I do feel like I don't really have as much to offer on the business side as I would like to, because I would love to be able to say that I have so much in place to make it rain and rain some more.
Yeah, but that is like, we don't come about that naturally, right? So that's what it takes. It's like for people to support you in that way. And, just even getting a press talking about them, saying, what people are doing and maybe how you can be it, right? Like to the younger generation, I tell this funny story when my kids were like, I think they were in kindergarten and they both got really sick and we had to go to the doctor that day instead of like our normal doctors, right? And so we went to Tribeca Pediatrics and they're both really sick. And all of a sudden this doctor comes in and he's like taking their temperature and on and on. And well, both of my kids were kind of looking at him like he's like, I was like, why are they so freaked out by this guy? Maybe because it wasn't their real doctor, normal doctor. He walks out and my son goes, Mommy, boys can be doctors too.
Fantastic.
Right. And I was like, oh my God. But because you intentionally do this and show your kids, etc., and expose people that, your audience was, I'm sure what we've asked, that there are all these other ways to make money other than supporting a bunch of men, right? Or a traditional patriarchal system, that you can be an Emmy, writer and you can, write books and you can do all these other things, then you are creating the business. So again, underestimating yourself.
You are, this is why I should listen to you. This is why everyone should listen to you. It's funny. I want to tag on an example of something to your example, because this blew my mind quietly last night. We were watching the Tonys, about to gear up for it. I showed my daughter a picture of Audra McDonald on the red carpet. And I said, do you know who this is? Audra McDonald. She was in Annie. She was Grace Farrell, amongst other things. But she's in Gypsy right now because my daughter, we're a Broadway household.
Yes.
Suffice to say. And so she knows about Gypsy. And she said, her friend had told her that her dream role was to be Baby June. But she couldn't be Baby June because you had to be a person of color in order to be Baby June. And I was like, okay, 2 big lessons from here. Number one, anyone can be Baby June, should be a truism, but has been made so manifest by this current production of Gypsy with a default Black cast. And the second thing that I realized from this was just that the reality is, as each generation sees it presented in a fresh new way. And it's really one of the things that I love about theater, which I especially this year at the Tony Awards. I just love how live theater is invigorated by how you interpret it and how you present it. And really, I did feel several times during the broadcast last night that that this season of theater was a real rebuke to the sort of retroactive pullback of 2025 away from what we have evolved into, dragging us back into the past, because we're not going quietly, and we're not going without a fight.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I love it. And you know what? Good. See, that's what I'm saying though. It's like showing people what you can be, and you don't realize who's watching and who's listening, you know?
I think that's also really true for women in midlife. I do really, there's such a renaissance of what we can be. I'm 52. I do not feel remotely like I am in my last act. Like I feel like I have a lot of acts left to go. There's still a ton of stuff I want to do. I am as hungry as I was in my 30s. I use my 30s and not my 20s because I really did not have very much direction in my 20s. I am more tired than I was in my 30s. That is true. But I also have so many more resources, and I hopefully spin my wheels a lot less. So I do feel like we are in like a real boon of an era for women in midlife, where the sort of you can't be what you can't see has evaporated, because there's so much seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
So many examples of how to thrive and succeed and make money.
That's right. That's the key, Sklar, right there.
I know I speak your language.
I love it. All right. Well, we cannot keep you all day. I know that you're very busy, and it took you a while to figure out how your computer could turn back on. So let you go.
Let's be clear. One of the first acts of whatever this new podcast will be the purchase of a new computer, because yes, you are correct. We need to freeze slightly less.
But I do always ask everybody one question before they go, and that is, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
Oh my God. The worst advice I ever received was from such a wonderful, well-intentioned friend, but it was, you're just lucky to have this exit package from a exit that I was making from a partner company. And it was in a time of financial instability, and the "you're just lucky to have" came instead of, here are 3 things you should do to go back to them and make sure they treat you fairly. And so instead, I took what was offered and felt lucky and scared that I could lose it if I dared say anything.
Yeah.
Terrible advice. I think about it often. I've never told that person that it's never come up, but in my head, I think about that person and their poor advice, a guy to a young woman.
That's how we're meant to feel. Just lucky. Aren't we lucky just to be around?
And I feel lucky all the time, by the way. I feel lucky all the time. I am the definition of luck. I had my daughter, unplanned pregnancy at 41, had her at 42. Okay. That is the definition of good luck and zero planning. But, that should be the baseline. That should be the baseline. It's funny because it brings me back to being smart, right? There's a line in Pippin, bring it back to show tunes. War is a science. It is smarter to be lucky than it's lucky to be smart. Well, it's great if you can control being lucky. You can't. You can control a little bit of it. You can definitely control positioning yourself to take advantage as much as possible. But you do have to put in the work. You do have to work on your skills. You do have to be smart. And so attributing what comes to women through luck and attributing what happens to men through skill and smarts is, what's that thing that I see online all the time? Is propaganda I'm not falling for.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Tell people how they can find you.
I am still most likely to answer something on Instagram. I do get emails, but I'm at Rachel Sklar on all platforms. And now I'm at Hi Smart Friend as well on Instagram.
Wow, you got a Hi Smart Friend.
That's how this happened. I'm a big fan of trying out URLs and handles and seeing what I can get. So Hi Smart Friend.
Love it. Hi Smart Friend and at Rachel Sklar. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for being on. It's far overdue. I know that. And for everyone listening, thank you for listening to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. Until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice. Thanks to MedJet for supporting the Lady Business podcast. If you're hospitalized or your security is threatened while traveling, they can get you home. I'm a MedJet member and have been for years. Everyone who travels should be. Enroll before your next trip at medjet.com. Thanks for tuning in to Taking Care of Lady Business. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. And also share this episode with a friend who needs that extra push to own their success. If you want more strategy stories and exclusive content, follow us on TikTok at Taking Care of Lady Business, on Instagram at thejustice.dept and Jennifer Justice L, or visit our website at thejusticedept.com. Taking Care of Lady Business is a production of Lady Business LLC.